Lucky LdM students are getting an inside look at the art of book and paper conservation and restoration. Today they're hearing from Gianlorenzo Pignatti, who's been working in this unique industry all over the world. LdM students dove right into this unique form of conservation, learning tricks of the trade. This is an industry that some say is saturated in Italy, but in places like the United States, there's growing demand for people with such skills. Pignatti himself is proof of how far restoration and conservation know-how can take you. He is an accredited member of ICON, the Institution of Conservation in the UK, and has collaborated on projects with the Vatican Apostolic Library, the Biblioteca Nazionale in Florence, and numerous other institutions here and abroad. He shared some insight on how the craft has evolved, and particularly on how it grew in Florence after the 1966 flood of the Arno River.
In these 50 years, the conservation, the science of conserving books and paper-based artifacts has basically grown from nothing, from scratch. So we have to be aware of the fact that we are now, 50 years after the flood, we are now in the very center where the flood occurred, and we are still teaching and learning this science, this art. So for me it's very interesting to have the possibility to have a talk, a seminar with students here at the Lorenzo de' Medici about the flood, about the importance of the flood for the book conservation techniques. Because what happened in the past 50 years, really, we went from a situation where there was nothing around, almost nothing around in book conservation, into a growing science where there are super bright minds out there studying and researching different aspects of this profession. There are many students and young people interested in the profession. So I think this is the current situation. I brought some original objects, some prints and drawings dating back to the 17th, 18th century. I brought a 18th century, mid-18th century printed book. And I wanted to show them first the reaction between different papers, different inks and different pigments, and the reaction with solvents before giving them in hands the real objects. So that's why I wanted to put their hands basically in movement and be able to put their hands on the workbench. By definition, book is a multimaterial object. It's formed by paper, for instance, ink, sizing agents, in some cases wooden panels, wooden supports, and leather as the cover. So I brought in some leather samples and just asked the students to share with me different ways to understand the leather behavior. So I brought in a few samples of vellum, of vegetable tanned leather, and cadmium tanned leather, mineral-based tanning agents basically. And we've experienced together different reactions of these samples. I think they're enjoying because they're testing different inks, the reaction between different inks on different papers with different solvents, which is something quite interesting if you never approached something like this. And there is one hour long presentation as well, a PowerPoint presentation, and that helps me to bring the students into the mood, into the environment of this profession. I think they're reacting very well.